So good morning, everyone, and welcome to our second session of our 2024 conference. Delighted that so many of you have been able to join us. Particularly happy to be able to welcome Martyn this morning. So for those of you that don't know Martyn, so Martyn's the Chief Digital Officer and leads the local government digital office, which was set up just about 7.5 years ago with the whole purpose to drive digital change across our sector. And I think that for anyone that has met Martyn, I'm pretty sure you will realise he will have an impact on some or all of you for the right or the wrong reasons. But nonetheless, I think our sector is lucky to have Martyn's skills, experience and expertise. That was built over a long and varied career, primarily in the private sector, working for some of the big telcos, as well as some either third-party integrators or OEMs, such as Compact Computer Centre. We've worked very closely with Martyn over the course of the last 2 or 3 years, particularly in digital telecare, and Martyn is the SRO for digital telecare across the country, and naturally that's been developed and works in partnership with not only ourselves, but those within Scottish Government and NHS. And that's been a key part of our work together. And we're currently developing the next pipeline of work that we will jointly develop. And even this week on Monday, we had a workshop between Martyn's team and our team. And we'll publish the outcome of that, and that'll feed in through the various UIGs that will be set up in the coming months. So, Martyn, the theme this morning is about how we generate a greater digital change, but crucially, the key focus on interoperability, which is an area that's been close to both our hearts over the last couple of years. So, Martyn, over to you. Welcome, and over to you.
Thanks, Hugh, and morning all. Hope you're all having a fantastic Wednesday with the Scotland Excel event. So I was going to take kind of few. This has been recorded. Can we just start again? I'm going to take you through a few slides this morning in terms of just a little bit of background to who we are, Digital Office, the kind of the view of the chief exec, etc., to lead into why interoperability and data is key, and then the opportunities that can actually do across our sector as well, if we get it right. So I'm going to do the classic sharing of screen and shout out, "Can you see my screen?" I've lost my Teams as well. There we go. If Hugh can give me a nod, that'd be nice.
Yes.
If you can see my screen. Yeah, cool.
Yeah.
Perfect. So at the bottom of the screen, you'll see there's 576 slides. I know I've got an hour, so I'm going to speak very, very fast. If you can keep up, that'd be great. But there will be a recording of this afterwards if you want to take notes. Kidding on, obviously. I have actually had a little bit of fun creating these slides today, as you'll see, and there's a reason for it, just to prove in terms of the opportunities that this can create. So without further ado, as Hugh said, we were set up 7.5 years ago. I still can't believe it's been that long, to be honest. However, I can, because things have rapidly changed over the years. In 2023, we reset kind of the bar and the function of Digital Office in conjunction with Solace, purely because we had been hosted by Improvement Service for 6 years and then moved over to COSLA back in April 2022. So the distinct role of a digital office is on the screen just now. Things like independent leadership, agile project delivery, program delivery, technical assurance, capacity and capability building, which is a key thing in terms of how do we work with skills, how do we look at new technologies and how they can impact our businesses and councils, and partnership working and collaboration. So Digital Office reports into the Digital Partnership Board for local authorities, which has likes of Scotland Excel, CMIS, Improvement Service, COSLA and Solace on there. And the whole part of this is we cannot do things on our own. We're too small to do things on our own. We have to collaborate with our partners to achieve stuff. And as you said, because you've kind of bumped my notes as well, we did have a workshop on Monday just to see what other opportunities are coming down the line. We've done significant procurements in the last few years, including the Shared Alarm Receiving Centre, which I'll touch on today. We've done stuff around about Microsoft 365 licenses on two consolidated procurement exercises in conjunction with CCS. So we've got a heritage of doing this, and this is why we need to take that approach, because we don't want to do something once and replicate it 32 times. We want to do something, we don't want to do it 32 times and replicate it once. We want to do something once and replicate it 32 times to save cost, efficiencies, and opportunities for collaboration as well. So how do we bring all this together? We put collaboration and partnership working at the centre of everything we do. And like we say, we do digital program management, like business case development, local capability building with skills, digital maturity, assurance of national programs. So, we work with CMIS to support them. We worked with Scotland Excel for helping with UIGs. We've got a shared security operations centre coming out soon. And then policy strategy and development. We work with COSLA and Scottish Government to see how digital and data can make an impact on policy decisions and outcomes for citizens as well. So that's just a very, very brief overview for those that might not know us. Hopefully you do, because we have been around for 7.5 years, but that's the role and function of Digital Office. So looking at today's kind of question and conundrum in terms of interoperability and the opportunities for our sector, I kind of thought we'd start with the CEO's pressing issues. So, at the CMT corporate management level, we've got the constant shifting political climate. We've got devolved governments with different approaches, like healthcare, education. At the moment, we've got when will the general election happen? We've had a change in First Minister in the last few weeks. So there's this kind of constant never-ending moving shift of political piece. And then you've got geopolitics round about it. We've got the fights with Israel and Gaza. We've got Ukraine and Russia. Geopolitics just now does play an impact in terms of supply chains, etc. as well. So how does a chief executive council make sure that whatever's happening externally is there's still a control locally as well? And of course, I forgot to mention local politics as well with councillors. We need to have that dichotomy of having that balance right when supporting our outcomes in councils. You've then got the economic perpetual austerity. We're in the cost of living crisis just now. We've got chances, of course, still with Brexit and post-COVID as well, in terms of getting back to normal, especially in terms of health and care services. And that money pot is getting smaller and smaller and smaller. How do we support where the priorities are to get where we want to? And there'll be a reason for this in a minute or two. You've then got the social impact. So we've got the digitally excluded were impacted or highlighted through COVID. We've got that ageing population, which is not just, how do we deliver services to them, but also in terms of our workforce. Our workforce is the ageing population is affecting our workforce and attracting new talent into the council to deal with services. And then we've got instability, fake news, and conspiracy theories galore. It's interesting. I've been on Twitter /X for many years, but the last few years I've just come off it because it's more like a bin fire these days, just with microcosms and echo chambers of fighting. But the fake news stuff has risen, and it's been quite interesting to see some of the conspiracy theories, especially around like COVID vaccines and 5G towers and technology, and Bill Gates being the devil, just because it's recording. I don't think he is. He might be, but I don't think so. But we've got that kind of social element in there with social media, obviously criticising our services on a day-to-day basis as well in councils, such as bins, potholes, etc. So we need to do something different. And then technological, we all are aware of the technological debt. We've had a challenge with investing into technology in councils for many, many years. And we're doing the best we can, sweating the asset as much as we can. But some of those assets are now past a sell-by date, and we need to reinvest. But that is a massive capital or expenditure for cloud services these days. And some people might not understand the business case of why we're moving to the cloud, but it does release a whole lot of opportunity for us to do more with data and interoperability. So worldwide chip shortage. If I wish about 5-6 years ago I'd invested in NVIDIA. NVIDIA are the major chip manufacturer for AI, and their chip price has gone absolutely through the roof. But there's a chip shortage just because of obviously supply chain challenges with worldwide geopolitics, but also in terms of trying to keep up the pace of requirements, such as the likes of Microsoft, Google, Apple, and others who are investing heavily into chips and manufacturing for the next big play, which is obviously AI, that everybody's backing the chips under. Chips as in chip. It's a bad joke. I'm going to leave it. I'm going to move on. And then we've got the PSI. I tried my best. And then PSTN switch off in 2023 to 2025. Now, granted, last week, BT Openreach announced that they're going to delay their analog switch off until January 2027. But we have worked in tandem with Scotland Excel, Digital Health and Care Directorate, Scottish Government, Technology Enabled Care, and other partners to deliver a digital telecare programme over the last 6.5 years to much effect. But there are still people that may not necessarily understand the impact of this will take, especially for elderly parents like myself who have gone from BT to Virgin and then found that their alarm receiving centre box wouldn't actually work with the new technology. So we need to make sure we're still getting that capability and capacity for frontline services, but also our own services, because some traffic light systems are still in analog services that people may have not realised that need to be swapped out as well. So again, technological things, another headache for a chief exec. Then got legal, constant changes in policy and legislation and the impact on how we deliver services. And then environment. We've got major issues with the environment, with mudslides. You've got flooding, you've got storms, which impact even from winter all the way through to summer, with hotter summers coming. So, I did see gritters out on the roads a couple of years ago during the summer. I didn't understand, and speaking to somebody in transport, they kind of mentioned it's actually to cool or to help stop the tar from melting, which I never realised was actually a thing, because the temperature's getting so high now in Scotland. I mean, doesn't necessarily compete with the likes of Spain, etc., but it's still getting hotter, and we have to consider how do we actually operate in this model as well. So CEO's pressing issues, losing technology. It's great to have a little bit of AI to actually come up with an idea of what two stressed chief execs in Scottish local authorities look like. I'm still wondering where the cat came from at the top picture. I've no idea what the references of cat. I kind of get the Balmoral Hotel in Edinburgh. In the bottom one, I don't know who. I think it's the chief exec's riding on a horse as well. But there you go. That's the power of DALI AI for us today in terms of trying to get a representation. So the vision for a modern digital council, we've got to look at local government. The worker can be cloud-based. They can work anytime, any place, anywhere. The Martini effect, for those of you that are old enough, my granddad, in fact, actually Hugh told me that quip was an old advert in the 80s for Martini drink. But no, the staff can work any place, log on, get access to the systems, being able to actually do the right decisions at the right time at the right place with the right data. To make the right informed business decisions. That's nirvana. The challenge is that we've got quite a lot of data locked up in older systems with contracts that may mean that the data is actually held by the supplier, not us, when it should be us that holds that data because it's our data. So we need to kind of work through how do we get to this nirvana, and I'll show you a couple ideas in a second or two. You've then got administration tasks are taken care of with robotics wherever possible, which means that we can release staff to do more frontline things. So Edinburgh City Council housing team have been using robotic process automation to pull together information for evidence, to make case management quicker, which means that the staff are actually released more to improve customer service and outreach with individuals with more complex cases. Again, I'll talk more about some examples in this in a minute or two as well, just to give you a bit of a flavour. But this is kind of the vision of where we want to get to. Staff can work in cross-functional groups, so other public sector partners, and collaboration is key, especially around about multifunction teams in care. So police, fire service, social care, education, health, GPs, whatever, can come together in a secure space to help support with better information to inform better outcomes and deliver better services for citizens as well. And then we've got citizen-focused, are kind of using collaboration tools they're familiar with. They're using one set of tools, one common solution for the piece, but that also reflects on the citizen side, so they can log in, get access to services, maybe even almost like Amazon effect, get served up adverts. So you've applied for this benefit, you get this, your options for this, or people that have looked at this on our website have also looked at this, etc. So again, it just improves that customer experience and customer service element, which may help release some of the tension or support challenges we have with the contact centres by using that kind of self-serve setup through digital data means. And then last is the data is securely shared with other departments, with other vendors, with other partners across the public sector sphere, with a common approach to data standards, cybersecurity, and procuring with common APIs, which just means it's like a jigsaw. It just fits together nicely to move that flow of data through to help make more informed choices as well. So what does that look like in practice? Well, there's another AI image of a digitally connected council. I think it's a bit more Harry Potter myself in this one, but again, it's just one of these things to kind of demonstrate that there's a whole microcosm from community data to local data to national data to partner data that has to be interoperable to help support that vision to make things go forward. We're involved as Scotland Excel is in the IS Solace programme of Council of the Future, and Digital Office has been asked to create kind of a target operating model for the digital 2B state. I need to get a busy slide in the presentation stack, to be honest. It's just part for the recipe book. But I'll talk it from the top. Don't look at all of it. If you start from the top, we look at a policy driver, a strategy, or a policy decision. It could be, in this instance, we've got the 3 for Verity House Agreement, with tackling poverty, transform the economy, and deliver sustainable services. But it could be digital education. It could be digital health and care. It could be any policy strategy you want to. You start at the top, because that's where we want to start from. It's about the human by default, the business challenge or the outcome we want for citizens, rather than the technology stack. Start from there. And then we look at the outcomes in 3 buckets: better operations, customer services, or better outcomes in terms of societal and staff, etc. So transformation opportunities, I've kind of mentioned the working anytime, any place, anywhere. Managers have richer insight to make decisions better, to look at budgets and appropriation of where to spend or to invest to get bigger bang for the buck. In terms of the customer service piece, we're looking at how do we improve performance, improve compliance, improve legal requirements, reduce failure demand, cost savings in terms of cost to serve, especially as we've got that challenge of the aging population, not just to say in society, but also in terms of the workforce as well. And then we've got the customer experiences, joined up services across the sector. I just had an experience a few years back where I was involved in a car accident, and I had concussion, phoned 111 NHS24, and they took through my details on the phone. That was great. They were supposed to send an ambulance, but a paramedic showed up, gave the same details to the paramedic. Then an ambulance showed up, gave the same details to the ambulance, was taken into A&E, and again at A&E receiving the exact same details again. And then when I was put into the A&E itself, and when I was going through receiving, again the same details. If only there was a way to do the details once and then push it all the way through, possibly to make sure my concussion, I wasn't kind of memory loss, but still that kind of flow of pushing stuff through was a delay in time to actually get treatment. But also, important to actually get this through so they could actually get to the bigger and better questions later on in terms of support for a medical condition. I was fine, by the way, honest. But in terms of that piece is about the joined up service delivery across the piece. I talked about multifunction teams, especially in the health and care space, where we've obviously seen the National Care Service Bill come in, the consultation around about it. We've got National Health, having challenges in operations and budget. So having that better outcome in this space can only be really achieved with data. And digital in itself is probably the last lever we can pull to get the delivery of services we want, whilst also cost saving as well at the same time. We just have to kind of think of the world a little bit differently. How do we build this? Again, I'll talk about that shortly. So transformation capabilities required, things like portfolio management, agile, user-centered design, service design, data-driven innovation. It's kind of the next level down. So we started at the top with the policy. We've kind of set our goals of what outcomes we want to achieve with operation, or better outcomes, better operations, better outcomes, and better services. We're then going into the operational changes we need to take as an organisation to achieve that. So we talk about kind of the capabilities required. They then have to support that with leadership and culture, common services, collaboration, procurement with Scotland Excel, etc. But also in terms of that information and data governance and data standards has to come into the space as well. Because it has to be interoperable to make these things happen at a national level as well as a local level. We then support that with skills, and then the technology stack comes in, all the kind of the cool tech stuff, like cloud computing, cybersecurity, online payments, AI, bots, Internet of Things, artificial intelligence. Sometimes we start with, I need AI to do what? To do stuff. That's never going to sign off a business case. We need to think about what is the outcome we want to achieve, and then work backwards to say, well, what's in our technology stack that we can actually apply to make this a reality as well. So nobody goes out and buys a Dell Blade server and go, that's great, that's my job done. We have to start with that human by default, and technology and digital and data by design, not the other way around, as we push this forward. And I've been saying that for a few years now as well. So you'll get this slide anyway. This is the target operating model we've got for digital 2B state. We're building a narrative around with the councils on this, which will come out during the summer, to explain this a little bit more detail. But that's kind of a starter for 10 in terms of the operating model we're proposing at present. But to be fair, you have to then look at how do we then look up to actually create that nirvana. The easiest way to look at it is in Lego bricks. So we've got Glasgow City Council. You can do what's on the front of the box. You've got the fire service on the front of the box. I couldn't get Dali to get police without it skewing the picture. But the analogy is that you've got what's on the box, but if you've got the component parts, you can then rebuild to break it down to rebuild whatever the heck you want as well. So what I mean by that is then if you've got your council or your public sector entity, it could be a council, it could be anybody, you then look at your service components. So things like notify, update, pay for, reminder, this 12 I'll come on to in a second or two because I can't remember off the top of my head right now. But those service components can be rebuilt and reused for anything you want. So either you use your Lego bricks to build what's on the front of the box, but you also use these to rebuild and do other services on this. You've then got your data and standards, which is key in this. We've got a data standards board being set up at present for local authorities, which will link into data standards board at Scottish Government. We've already got some data standards for health and care, but that is very, very much key in terms of how do we get that interoperability to work? How do we get that data to flow between ourselves as councils, between our departments in the council, but on that wider sphere of partners we've got out there as well. Then got the technology stack. So cloud computing is key in this. Your data is not going to be necessarily easily available if it's your own data center in your organization. Cloud efficiencies are there in terms of somebody else has got the challenge to look after your infrastructure for you, while you can concentrate on building the services with these Lego blocks on that infrastructure. At the end of the day, we're not IT companies at the end of, and councils. We should be getting a trusted partner to deliver that cloud service and then us to build on top of it with these Lego components. And last but not least is the channel physical assets. What have we got digitally? How can we reuse great practice across the councils just now? I mean, ideally, I did an analogy piece with Solace a few years back that retail is a bit like councils, whereas we've got that, traditional high street service, big buildings in the high street. You go in, there's one person, 20 people, standing in queue waiting to be served. Online, you can get instantaneous stuff, and you can get adverts served up to you with what you're entitled to, like the Amazon experience, like I mentioned earlier on. So the channel physical assets changed. If you go to retail banking just now, there'll be a couple of tellers on, but there'll be a concierge to show you how to do stuff online. So you start to use the online tools and not necessarily put the pressure on the face-to-face in the branches as well. I know it's controversial in that state. So that's kind of the first stage. Second state would be the kind of self-serve shopping you see just now. Maybe not the best experience when you get unexpected items in the baggage area, but that efficiency and flow of being able to actually, get more people served by one service provider, whereas the customer's doing the majority of the work themselves, like the bagging, etc., the scanning. And then you get to the full self-serve experience, like Amazon Go. I don't know if you've heard this, the concept in London. It's now closed down, sadly. But you could go in to a shop, all the technology was there to see what you're taking off the shelves, put in your pockets and walk out. It's all paid for. There's some joke we have that in the high street just now, sadly, but we need to look at the data points of why these people are having to shoplift to survive in our society, and how do we interact early with local council and care services to support them. And then the furthest one for the channel is in South Korea, Tesco's were trying to build new shops. So they were stopped because of the planning laws. So they did an experience with Samsung where they had massive electronic billboards with all the products that you want on a screen. You go up, scan them, and then you get to your end destination of your journey, and the stuff will be sitting there waiting for you to pick up and collect and take home. It's a slightly different culture across there in terms of how they procure food, but that's kind of that full. You take what you need as and when required from there as well. So that's kind of the channel asset piece you want to consider when looking at that interoperability. But again, that comes from great collaboration and strong partners to help build that with you. So if we get all this right, what's the opportunity? So I thought I'll go slightly off-piste from my brief, and sorry guys, but I think this is maybe quite tangible because there's a lot of interest in AI, and there's a lot of interest in terms of the operational challenges or opportunities for AI. But ideally, if we get the data standards right, if we get the culture right, if we get the services in right, working with partners and collaborating, if we look at, well, what is the outcomes we want to achieve against the policy and the strategy right, we can then look at, well, how do we use the AI opportunity to help support getting better outcomes and releasing the little staff we have in the sector to do the more human elements, the more interactive stuff, or the creative stuff we want to do. Because as you can see from the creative piece this morning, AI is not quite yet there for creating images for us as yet for presentations. So again, going back to that model of three, you've got the benefits of generative AI for Scottish councils. So starting with better operations, streamlining operations, reducing errors, increasing productivity by able to actually double check bits of work, being able to cross-reference, like I said with Edinburgh, by pulling information together to create a one system view of the person. You've got predictive maintenance, like Internet of Things, by saying, actually, do you know what, this compressor's about to go kaput on a car, or we've got a warning light coming up a couple of times. You can get the car booked or the vehicle booked in for maintenance before it actually goes off road. You've got cost reduction, routine tasks, automation, reducing operational costs, etc., by getting the AI to do the work. I'll cover a bit more on this in a second, but you've got that kind of better operations for having an assistant there to support, and don't rely fully on the assistant. You're not going to have better operations in the NHS where you rely on an AI to give you a diagnosis, and the clinical consultant says, yep, that's right, you're fine. It's giving you the information up front to then look at it, just check it, and then make a logical decision whether it's right or wrong on the back of it. So we can't really fully trust it, but it does give us that quick efficiency of doing a first draft, per se, for us. You've then got better customer services. So we've got things like common inquiries, provide instant accurate responses. There's some great chatbots out there. My favourite's Aberdeen City Council, not ruling out anybody else's, by the way, I want to point out. AB1's been out for a wee while. It's now become multilingual in the last couple of months. But from the start, you can speak to it in Doric. And that's an AB chatbot, external, but also one internal for staff, which will then give you insight of updates of what you're looking for across the council website or council services. A really good big partnership with Microsoft to develop it. But the Doric thing tickled me with what it could do. Not necessarily the operational efficiency they've got in the back of that, because the contact centre calls have gone down through the result of using that as well, I believe. So again, just an idea of how to get better customer services on that space. And then you've got better outcomes. So things like data-driven decisions, being able to pull data from, say, in fact, I was going to say Greater Manchester Authority worked with the police, A&E and education to help support with vulnerable children. And there was actually an increase of 76% of accuracy predicted by pulling data from A&E admissions, conversations with the pharmacists, truancy at school or being off at school, etc., and police reporting. Joining that data up, or predictive analysis was able to support from that one as well. I've got another case example I'll talk about in Glasgow in a minute or two as well in that space. But again, that can help support better outcomes. And I think workplace satisfaction, we've certainly been using Microsoft Copilot for the last 4 months, which has actually helped us be a bit more efficient, because we're actually getting first drafts, etc., done of papers, of insights, of presentations, Excel, etc., extracting data quickly from various versions of Excel and various different sources from it. So again, it just has better outcomes for us to serve our customers, i.e. councils and yourselves, better through that as well. So future predictions of AI in the workplace, just to cover off, is phase one, your productivity applications would be your Microsoft 365 Copilot, things to help you on operational day-to-day. It's easy to get a business case, or easier to get a business case for it and for investment, because it gives you operational efficiency through the workforce, which you might not necessarily have, but also support. It's not a replacement for staff, it's a support for staff to do more with less in terms of admin people around about them at present. You've then got the kind of the middle bit, which is a line of business applications. So we're talking about verification, proof, notify, schedule, etc. That's your kind of systems that you're buying from the likes of Capita, Northgate, your big system integrators, etc. Takes a little bit more time, takes a little bit more kind of expertise to look at, but again, a great opportunity, again, from that interoperability piece with other partners to then reuse and rebuild using pieces. So for instance, in there I've got, I should have a verify in person. My account's been there for a number of years, but that would be kind of your first part of that phase. Say, right, you've got the person through your gate or through your door. How do the rooms in the house behind that then serve up the right information to them to make the right informed decisions? that would be like some of say like digital front door for health and care records is a good example. How you have the verification going in, then you can notify, schedule, or book, or pay or proof for pharmacy or whatever else in the service in the back of that. But that's again slightly more harder for the business case for investment because you need to get your partners involved to have that conversation. But nice to have. And then last but not least is build your own AI. That's going to be expensive. It's going to be harder to justify. You'll need a lot of resource like data scientists, which are above £150,000 a year and have to have juicy stuff to work on. But also in terms of that data governance, that ethical piece is going to be on you rather than having the partners take that risk for you as well. So just again, the opportunity that's there if you get the data standards and interoperability right. So practical examples very quickly. Is kind of the operational efficiency. I've talked about automating tasks, improving customer services, improving outcomes for communities. I've kind of covered this slide 2 slides ago. But, you know, the actual examples itself for case studies is you've got meeting notes post-COVID. We've certainly used the transcribe feature in conversations with Scotland Excel to help with minutes of meeting taking quicker. We've done it in different board meetings we've done before as well in the digital office. But it just helps you can transcribe and prepare meeting notes, summaries of meetings, minutes of meetings, who's spoken the most. Invariably, if it's between Scotland Excel and ourselves, it's me or Hugh. It would come as no surprise. But also it helps improve accuracy of note-taking as well, especially with my handwriting. At the end of it, you've actually got a written transcript of what was said and the various points you want to extract from that. Case management. Bradford Council have been using AI to transcribe and summarise conversations and convert handwriting to text for quite a while. So not necessarily, you know, everybody's got a laptop. A laptop can be quite a barrier in a conversation with a vulnerable person. So taking paper-based notes still, being able to take a picture of them and then use the AI piece to transcribe that with the rest of the record helps give that a better understanding of the kind of ongoing condition or ongoing support for that individual in that setting. Then we've got things like freedom of information requests. GDPR, you know, it takes up a lot of time. Invariably, it seems to be either councillors or not councillors. It invariably seems to be politicians, full stop, or journalists looking for FOI requests rather than somebody in the street. But again, having the AI to actually go across your whole data in your estate to come back with an informed piece of work to then help say, well, where do I need to just check it out, double check the sources. It just saves a lot of time in terms of that component of actually putting together evidence for an FOI request. Chatbots, I've mentioned Aberdeen City Council, but you know, there's things like planning waste, etc. is there. Automatic entitlement, again, there's a lot of stuff going around just now for automatic entitlement for child poverty payments as underway in Scotland. Certainly, there's been stuff with free school meals in Glasgow for a while now, being able to different sources, and just send vouchers through the post rather than having what's it called, sneakerware. School bag where it's given or lost in a school bag back to the parent between the school and the home. It's a bit of an automated process rather than to rely on the child to give them the permission slip or etc. or whatever else to apply. It's just done automatically. Application validation. So who's the councils in England again? But they're using AI to verify text and diagrams to make sure planning stuff is on part, because sometimes the actual document, the actual planning design might not necessarily work up with the narrative with it, which delays it. So as a quick glance, you can pull two together and then double check before they actually go through the next process, which is saving time and money for faster responses and planning. You've got visitor management. So this was a cool bit of work we did with through CivTech with Loch Lomond and Chopston National Park and Perth, Kinross and Stirling. So at the moment, there's sensors in the park. It then looks at the weather conditions. I think we've actually got it down to half a degree of turning point to see we can predict when the car parks, let's say at Balmaha or Balloch are going to be full or going to get busier. But also then helps with the environments team to actually then look at when they have to empty the bins, because we've got that data there as well. It's been nicknamed TAPS AF AI, which is maybe not the best idea to call it, but it does have that predictability. So if you don't want to avoid pasty, white Glaswegian males going for a sunbathing session in Balloch, I suggest maybe look at this AI and bot for that prediction. Also helps with traffic management as well, which is obviously a big challenge during summer months, especially with some of the small roads to these car parks, such as Balmaha. It can be a bit of a nightmare to do. So again, helps with that piece. Property maintenance, we know there's been some IoT work and AI work with Edinburgh City Council, deploying sensors in the home I've certainly seen it in housing associations over the years before I joined this role in digital office. But again, it helps with predictive maintenance, things on boilers, CO2 alarms, fire alarms, smoke alarms, etc. Links into the next piece, which is digital telecare. But with the devices we can put in the homes of IoT, and with telecare, we can actually have a fuller picture of that individual and how they're living, and if there's any early interactions or interventions we have to do early through this. So again, using the different data sets from interoperability, from social care, from health, from housing, gives that overall piece of how do we support it. Telecare service I could talk through for the rest of the day, but I'm not going to. But the AI prediction stuff we've got, it could help support in terms of that independent living much more, but also stuff that's been done with DHI a few years back can actually give about, I think it's an 88% accuracy using AI from different data sets, from like Wi-Fi scales, how much water consuming, electricity usage from an electricity partner. Can say when somebody's actually going to have a fall, so you can actually interact and get them to hospital early before actually having the fall, which costs more to serve afterwards for the individual, and it's a lot more upsetting as well if you're getting a hip replacement, because I've seen it from family as well in that aspect. And then the last one is kind of how do we improve outcomes? So impact of capital investments. There's been AI work in Glasgow, counting walking, cycling usage, CCTV network anonymised, to look at how does a city deal avenues program like Buchanan Street and offshoots, how do you get investment from shops, etc., but also from parking to give better experiences. So they can actually give data back to partners externally to say invest here if you want to get a shop, a high street shop with the best footfall. But at the same time, it also looks at environment impact and then what needs to be done for planning and also for traffic management too. OpenGov, we've looked at this before, and we're working, cause of Turing Institute are working on the use of AI to help understand the views of AI's impact in communities, because you've got likes of the last mass media talking about Big Brother and obviously Skynet and Terminator, which isn't the case. But using the AI piece, we can actually have an open consultation with people about ethics, the ethical use of AI. But again, that comes back to how do we collectively interoperate of the data, and how do we collectively have that discussion with the citizen to make sure they feel safe that we're actually using this technology going forward. And lastly, the drug and alcohol and drugs analysis stuff. There's been a work in partnership with Greater Glasgow and Clyde NHS to look at data for early intervention, where we think that people are going to get to the worst part or worst state, which could be death through drug or alcohol abuse. So using different markers from different data sets from the council, from social work, from education, and also from health, are actually predicting through that interoperability to then say interaction early as per Christie Commission principles back in 2011. So that gives me a flavour of how the opportunity of, if we get the data stuff right, if we get the interoperability right, the leadership right, the skills right, the culture right, we could actually do so much more with predictive stuff, which releases pressure from us as members of staff in councils to then go and do the more creative stuff and the interactive stuff with our citizens. And I think that's me. No, it's not. It's one more slide. So what do we have to overcome? Involve people in designing AI, the ethical piece, data protection, and building trust and confidence. But that's not building trust and confidence just in the citizen. It's building trust and confidence in ourselves that this is the way forward and we should embrace it rather than try and hide from it. And I think that is my last slide. Open for questions.
Martyn, thank you. Real interesting and entertaining as always. So thank you very much for that. It was a great summary, but at the same time, when you think about the possibilities, you also think about the risks if we don't embrace technology. So good summary in so much as, thinking about the varied challenges that, chief executives and councils face right now. And it's across the whole spectrum from political through to technology, and how we need to think about what the vision of a modern council would look like. And crucially, the risk if we don't take the opportunity to embrace technology, but also like the way you linked it back to the national priorities, right way back to, well, here's a Verity Crisis agreement, here are the national priorities that will come from that. So it's not just about how we work as a sector, but how we work with policy setters at a national level and how we deliver them on a local basis. Maybe I could kick off, Martyn, if you don't mind, with the first question, because I think that the whole the whole thought around AI and how we effectively deploy AI comes with an actual challenge and risk around, this false perception that we are potentially using AI to replace jobs. So with the implementation of effective technology, we need to begin to overcome that risk. And one of the ways that we could do that is by how we help automation to drive cultural change as well. So I'm interested in your thoughts around that and how we can be an effective part of that.
So I think, there's also that threat of job replacement. There's a website, I think it's Will Robots Take My Job? It's been around for a few years, and it puts the kind of the heebie-jeebies up people just in terms of what's predicted. But I think the reality is that predictions I've seen and read elsewhere, and I can't remember the stat itself, but the fastest growing sector for new jobs because of AI is health and care, because you're taking away the horrendous admin burden from people. Teachers are a great example as well. The admin burden can be taken away from AI and that process automation stuff to actually concentrate on doing the job they're supposed to be doing, is interacting with the public. And there's no way on earth. Japan's played with robots for a number of years for care for the elderly. We've seen like electronic cats and dogs, etc., as well, to try and soothe them. But the human element, the human touch, is a much more personable thing, and it's human, right? You're not necessarily going to have that. You're not going to have that relationship with a robot. Some weirdos might, but the majority of society are not. So I think that there is that element in terms of releasing the admin burden, people to actually have a more fulfilling life by actually interacting with humans in that space. I think in terms of getting away from the replacement for staff and robots taking jobs, we have to embrace it. It's not going away. We can't stop it. It's here. We just need to look at, well, what's the path we need to take to get it. Hence the fact my 3 pathways of Microsoft Copilot, or whatever Copilot for productivity, it is there. Then we go to the kind of the piece around about the lines of service, a little more complex to your full AI. We start small in that space, we can start to learn how to use it, how not to use it, the challenges, the worries and issues with it. But then moving up to that, well, once we've started to learn, we're ready for that, building our AI as a public sector. We're nowhere near yet. I reckon 5 years at least before we get to that space, especially with cost to actually to serve it as well.
Yeah, okay. Cost, of course. Martyn, thanks very much. I'm going to hand you back to Kelly now to pick up the questions that we have so far. So Kelly, over to you, please.
Thanks, Hugh. So Martyn, we've got a few questions in the chat and one person with a hand up. So the first question we have is, how do you see AI benefiting procurement?
I think, I'd say about not building our own AI. I want to build my own AI to replace you. I'm joking. So how does AI benefit procurement? I know. I'll play nice. So AI benefiting procurement. So if I take an example, I'll go away to come back. If I look at some conversations I had with number 10 in Google just before Christmas, they're using AI to look at policy positions and speeches. So you can look at historic data to then make a draft copy of something to then edit it. So you've got all the considerations and challenges you've had before, or positions you've had before in something. Then you can make an informed choice of what you want to put in, keep out, etc. Enter your own joke there if you wish when I'm talking about number 10 and AI and Google, right? But I think the same thing happens with procurement. If you've got contracts, I was doing a talk with Bigger Bailey a few weeks back about this, in particular for legal stuff. You can actually look at historical records. You can look at legal contracts you've had in the past. You could then say, well, what's the best pieces? What things have we missed out? What's not compliant? You can ask in natural language what's missing from this based on XYZ policy or ABC, and it'll come back with a more robust piece for checking over before you release that contract. I think also looking for common, if you're tracking customer complaints on certain contracts, you can then pull you can pull the information from the from the bits to look at. Well, what's relevant, what's not, what's the key chances we've got to improve the service. So I think there's a massive opportunity you can do there. It's just thinking. AI is fundamentally prompt engineering. It's questions. If you ask the right questions, you get the right answers. Or if you ask great questions, you'll get great answers. So I think it's up to you what you want to learn from it. If it's contracts, if it's best contracts, things missing in a contract, based on previous contracts, you can ask it anything you wish. It'll give you an answer. hope that answers.
Thanks, Martyn. And I'm going to bring Sam in, who has their hand up just to ask a question. On you go, Sam.
Sorry, it wouldn't let me unmute, so technology being great. Very aware that some of my question is almost part of my remit. But how do we manage the speed that technologies, specifically AI, are developing at the moment against how we get this live in a public sector environment without what we put in place then being outdated?
Very, very good question. A question I've heard a few times, Sam, so thank you. I think it's starting small, starting with the Copilot stuff, starting with the productivity apps as we start to get to speed, because we're not, if we're going to wait for something, we'll never deploy it. We've seen that before, and the challenges with new technology. I think we have to start small with the productivity piece to improve productivity. Once we get to learn the opportunities and stuff there, learn about prompt engineering, getting the questions right, then we can move to the line of business stuff, then to build your own. So I think you have to put a stake. You're never going to have the right time. You have to take a stake at some point and then move forward with it. But in any reality, in any technology stake, if it sees a business opportunity for it. I could digress with virtual reality, etc. as well. Virtual reality's been in for 10 years, never found a real, 15 years, we've never seen a real solution for it yet. Meant to be entertainment. 5G is another big technology. 4G is fine. 5G, we've got people trying to create business scenarios to say, this is why we need to invest in 5G. It's faster speeds. That's kind of the crux of it, but 4G does what we need to do with it. And I think that perception that we have to look at, well, what's real, not real. AI is a definitely real source of opportunity for business change and cultural change and support for an individual. So it has to be embraced. So I think it's starting small and then putting the stake in ground and moving forward. Hope that answers the question.
Thanks, Martyn. I've got a few other questions. The next question is, do you believe that consolidating the multitude of systems currently in play across the public sector could serve as a rapid catalyst to accelerate our progress and unlock the full spectrum of benefits we're aiming for?
John Allen, I'm going to say no, absolutely not. I think we should all do things separately. I'm joking, absolutely joking. No, it's fundamentally true. We have to look at common solutions. I think the challenge is because we've got 32 different ways of doing things. We've got 32 different ways of previous investment. We've got, on a maturity scale of 1 to 5, we've got the councils roughly around about a kind of a 3.2 average. Just now, we've got some over at 4. Nobody's a 5, because 5 would be what would Google or Microsoft do to create a council today. We're still a wee bit further away from that one. But fundamentally, we have to take considerations of that, hence the fact my Lego brick model. If you look at the componentized parts of it, we can create common solutions, but we need to get the big bricks, like as the payments, the notify, the verification, the identify, the person piece. With that, you can build whatever the heck you want in the back of that. So that's core component pieces we need to focus on. But we need to look at more kind of piece of that one. And I think also coming down from the age-old challenge of, well, so-and-so's bought it, that they're different to us. We do something different. No, we all do 25 core services in a council. I mean, to make efficiencies and savings. And there's more opportunities for shared services, especially, John, being in Forth Valley with Clacks and at Clacks with Falkirk and Stirling. There's some great opportunities there for shared service. And we've seen the likes of roads and stuff with Western Bartonshire. I think it's Eastern Bartonshire are sharing. So I think we have to look at new business models now, because we don't have the money, we don't have the time, and certainly we have the customer demand to drive these things. So we need to start looking at these common solutions in a bit more detail.
Thanks, Martyn. Another question we've got is, are there concerns around security with AI use?
Yeah, 100%. I think cybersecurity all over just now. It's not a matter of if, it's when, and looking at your resilience and your strategy for disaster recovery from these things. So likes of friends up at Western Isles Council sadly got hit with a ransomware attack before Christmas. I was upset a council got hit, but more upset was Western Isles Council because of the size of the council, etc. Again, we give support. Obviously, we supported Scottish Government with their response and stuff in there as well. But I think with the AI piece, again, it goes back to the ethics. If you've got an ethical use policy for it, which we're helping co-develop just now as part of this law office and working with Solar, etc., but also looking at that kind of wider context. If you start small with the productivity, co-pilots, Microsoft and others, that helps with the risk and security because it's in your own dataverse. So if you're using Microsoft 365 pilot. It's your data in your Microsoft environment. Nothing else doesn't go out to the web. It's in your environment, and you're using your environment. If you're using ChatGPT on the web, you're out in the web. And we've got, instances and issues around about the ethical use from that one. So again, lawyers in I think it was Glasgow was caught using ChatGPT for an argument in a case, a legal case. And the case examples that ChatGPT came up were an illusion. It came up with an elusive case for reference of a matter which was just made up. And the lawyer was found out for it and reprimanded for it. He did it again, and it was disbarred as a result. So again, it's understanding of what is the best use for these things. If it's in your corporate environment, fine, use it in your corporate environment for AI. If you're using ChatGPT just now to do business work, I would err on the side of caution from that one massively, because you're releasing information into a multi-large multi-neural language model that's worldwide. And there could be stuff there that could be hoovered up and then be used for answers in the future. So please, if you're using ChatGPT for work, stop it.
Okay, thanks, Martyn. I'm going to bring in Stuart Mission, who has their hand up with a question. Stuart, do you want to come in now?
Hello, can you hear me now?
Yes, yep. I can.
Yeah, excellent. My question's around Scope 3 carbon emissions. Naturally, the more compute and storage we have, the bigger the CO2 footprint, and things like AI are just increasing that. They reckon after we've finished getting rid of the low-hanging fruit, digital is going to account for between 50 and 70% of the carbon emissions. So should we be deploying AI because of the carbon footprint it then attracts and the offset from that? Where do we position that balance?
So I think there's a lot of the cloud providers, etc., are looking at renewable energy and different means to actually cooling the stuff, so there's a lesser impact on CO2. So for instance, there was I think they're still there, there's a cloud provider or data center provider down in Lockerbie area, which uses the natural precipitation of a valley to keep the servers cool, so not using as much air conditioning and power consumption for it. You've got the likes of Microsoft did a piece of work as part of a wider international program of checking the resilience of servers and cloud computing, and they put a sunken data center into Orkney or off Orkney and left it for a couple of years and brought it back up, and they're surprised at the results. It was cooler maintained. It maintained effortlessly well. So it was offsetting carbon by using natural cold water. Now, argument might say that the water might be getting hotter with global warming. I get it, but looking at natural ways of doing doing the power consumption for it, and rather than using kind of your oil and gas pieces. But I think if you're looking at that as well, then you have to consider the power of electric cars. Is it electric cars actually creating a natural green footprint because of the kilowatts usage in terms of pulling down power at night as well? So it all comes part of the bigger debate of how do we actually create energy to actually supply our digital lifestyle, whether it's online or offline with electric vehicles, etc.
Thank you for that.
Thanks, Martyn. So there's been quite a lot of discussion in the chat, but one of them is around the sort of evaluating of bids and also the submission of bids. So again, who then becomes responsible if there's any issues when you're using AI to do evaluation? Or also how do we, I guess, detect when it's AI that's been used to submit a bid? What is the discussions around that so far?
So there's various different ways of doing it. So from evaluating and responding, you take what AI comes with and you double check it. You don't take that as a gospel. You go in and check what's happening. In terms of writing bids, I don't know if this is ever going to work, but I know a teacher friend of mine who was catching the pupils using ChatGPT, etc., to write stuff, was by just literally copying and pasting the text that was on the Word document or on the stuff that was submitted. So they put in random words like Frankenstein, milk, or what was the other one that she used? Some letter parrot and something, and the story that was created had random things about Frankenstein and milk, etc. And they just sent it in. The people sent it in without even double checking it. So I think with anything with AI usage, it's there to support. It's not an actual, not a done product like for like. You need that human element still to double check it over before actually submitting or doing the evaluation. I would always err on the side of caution of relying on the AI as being the absolute, absolute gospel truth on it, just do a double check on it before you do it. And in terms of who goes to court, anyway, I think from the AI piece from writing bids, there is tools out there to look for AI pieces, because it'll certainly use a certain language structure or use certain words more than others because it's based on its language processing model.
Okay, thanks, Martyn. I don't think there's any more questions in the chat so far, so if anybody's got anything they want to ask, feel free to put up your hand. There is quite a bit of discussion there for you to read, but there's no particular questions.
I don't know who Stephen says Martyn with an I. Don't know who that is. And Alan Ross, did you get any more questions to ask me?
Nope, all quiet. So I will hand it back to Hugh to close.
So thanks, Kelly. Really good, Martyn. You can see the level of interest that you had, particularly when it came to the Q&A at the end and the discussion. So once again, thanks very much for taking the time. I know you're on annual leave as well this week, so we really appreciate you taking some time out for that. So thank you. So everyone, our next session's at 12 o'clock, and we're going to welcome some colleagues from Crown Commercial Services. And the theme of the session is around commercial agreements supporting public sector banking requirements to drive innovation and value for money. And I'll tell you a bit more about our guest from Crown Commercial Services just before as the session starts at 12. So hopefully you've enjoyed this session. I certainly have, and I look forward to seeing you at the next one at 12 o'clock. So Martyn, thanks very much again. Bye, everyone.
Cheers all.